What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Master Crafted. And today we are going to be finishing up our discussion about the TSon's Codex and the new drop. We are going to be covering the data sheets that it contained. Phil, how you doing today, buddy?
Good. I'm looking forward to some TSons. We just got the leaks for the Space Wolves as well, so it seems appropriate that they both are coming out together because of their age-old rivalry. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about some TSons, and I can't wait to see you put them on the board.
Yeah, I am excited. I'm going to be playing something besides Guard after this upcoming Teams event, I think, once this drops. So definitely going to be diving deep into these data sheets and detachments and trying to find the secret sauce that I will be putting on the table myself. And what better way than to do it right now and dive right in. Up first, might as well start with the big man himself. We got Magnus the Red. What is Magnus packing now?
Well, for our very, very sad world leaders friends, he actually is probably better than Angron, and he's actually stronger than Angron. So don't come at me. He is something else, but he's got a 14-inch movement. He's toughness 11, 2 up, 4 up, 16 wounds, 5 up leadership, and 6 OC. We won't go through everything that's in the data sheet, but there are some things that we need to be cognizant of here. So the most important thing, the thing that stands out for me in Magnus, is he is now -1 damage. I think that's all the time, to my understanding. It is just his psychic ability, but he is now just -1 damage. That makes him incredibly tough.
So that is
overall.
his Crimson King ability, the same as any other Primarchs. He can pick between one of the three of them.
Correct.
At the
that
beginning
one
of
for me is probably the best.
Yeah. Yep, it is definitely a nice to have for sure. Early, he still has everything within 6 inches, gets +2 to their move characteristic. Very good to get you out and going. You're going to be starting with that one and then probably shifting into -1 damage for sure. And then the kind of like maybe because it like a unit has a bunch of shots, you can select his third one, which is at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. You can give an enemy unit with ranged weapons the hazardous ability within 24 inches of him. They better be having a lot of different weapon profiles that are firing to make that really worth it compared to either of the others. But you got the choices. And then last but not least, the big update was that he can attempt 2 rituals in the shooting phase and try to do 2 of them instead of just the 1, which is definitely very useful. And he also adds to the results. So he is going to be a very strong caster for those rituals. And then the only other big changes were Gaze of Magnus. His shooting attack went from strength 9 to strength 11. So that's going to be a lot nicer into some of those little bit less tough vehicles. Anything T12 is still going to be on 5s, but T11 over T9 helps a lot when it comes to a lot of monsters and vehicle profiles, as well as even like, going into Terminators with AP2 damage 3, being strength 11, that's going to put you on, except for Death Shroud and Death Guard Terminators. You'll be wounded on 2s. Sounds real nice. Since you are losing the aura of +1 to hit and wound with psychic weapons for him, that definitely helps have a little extra strength.
What's the point cost? What's your guess? How many points is he worth for you to take?
I haven't looked too deep. I think they were leaked somewhere, but I think he's probably around 450, 460.
Yeah. Is that too much?
It depends. It depends on which detachment you're in. I do think he went from being an auto include because literally you just had to have the 4 Cabal points he provided to now being like definitely if you are playing more of like Grand Coven where you're really trying to boost psychic weapons, he has more psychic weapons than anything else. So why wouldn't you take him?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said about that. But other than that, dude, I think you can take him or leave him in a lot of the others. I think he'll work just fine, but I don't think you're gonna be missing him if you don't have him. So it's a nice spot to be in. He's not bad, but you don't have to take him anymore.
I mean, for a Primarch, I love seeing him on the board. And to be fair, they are so cool looking. And Magnus, for as much shit as I give him, he is a cool looking model. And I like seeing him flying around with his giant wings. But I would not be sad to see him go either.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you see plenty of him. I just hope you see plenty of matchups where he is everywhere you look. But up next we have Ahriman. He did see some larger changes. He does get more than just 1 shot on his ranged weapon now, being D6 +1 with blast and psychic. But the big thing is his ability. He's no longer +1 to wound for his unit. He gives a 3-unit redeploy for the Thousand Suns units in your army. And then he also has +1 to any psychic rituals he does. So going to be another good caster, and he gives you a lot of flexibility to move stuff around, especially with some of the infiltrate shenanigans you can do with some of your units. Definitely very useful for sure.
I like him a lot. I think the redeploy is good. We saw the enhancement in the Chaos Demon detachment, I believe, where it allowed the redeploy. But he has it built into the ability. Just reading him, because he can attach to Tzaangor Enlightened and Rubric Marines, depending on what he's on. Like, I probably always take him, right? Because the +1 to psychics, because we know how important those are to get off. I really, really like him.
Yeah, he does seem good. And I am curious, though. I haven't seen, maybe there are 2 versions, but it seems like Ahriman on disc is now, just judging by the picture, the only way to potentially take him. Because there isn't an Ahriman and an Ahriman on disc, at least in the leaks we have seen. So that'll be interesting to see if there is maybe another version hiding out there somewhere. But from everything we've seen, it looks like it's just the one. Yeah. Okay.
That'd be interesting.
Yep. Alrighty. Up next, Infernal Master remains pretty much unchanged. Still a great torrent weapon that you can throw on him. Still gives out sustained hits to the model he's attached to, and still flips a die to a 6. Like, just still solid. It's really going to depend on what you're looking for. Now, it does seem like the Infernal Masters, Sorcerers, and Exalteds all kind of compete for what role you really need them for, instead of just definitively being better based off of what worked in the index. There's going to be a little bit of style, a little bit of choice, which is always good to see.
Well, I mean, if I'm going to put this on anyone, the first thought that comes to mind is the Tzaangor detachment, where we have 20 Tzaangors that now can get led by an Infernal Master, giving that unit full-on sustained hits and +1 to wound. Seems pretty good, Lane. That seems like a lot of attacks.
Yes, you are 100%. If you are doing anything that's going to be attached to 20 Tzaangors, it is that man right there, the Infernal Master. That's going to be spicy for sure. Still, I think he's just going to be one of the best ones in general. Your ability to, in Grand Coven, give +1 to wound and dev wounds and stuff still in there. Infernal Masters, I think, are really going to find a place in that detachment and still be a backbone unit, whereas a lot of these other detachments where you don't have some of that psychic weapon buffing, giving your sorcerers, which is up next, the regular sorcerer, just gives lethal hits. And so just trying to use your lethal hits on AP2 bolt guns with a normal sorcerer, that I think is going to be a pretty standard way to play, especially once you've oathed to target. You can just fish for 6s, and I think that's just going to be a pretty common going forward.
Absolutely. We could just move on to the Sorcerers. You already said it. Lethal hits is good. They could lead Rubrics. Obviously, with a full-on oath, rerolling all hits, makes it pretty nice for punching up with AP2 bolt guns, which is really nice. And then he can go Super Saiyan, pretty much. You can improve the strength and attacks characteristics of psychic weapons equipped by this model by 3. So your psychic weapon options are your Pandemonic Delusion and or it's your force weapon. Yeah, it's your force weapon, because unfortunately the Kopesh is not psychic. So you would increase the attacks and strength 7 and 9 attacks.
Not bad. You don't hate it. It's not Honor of a Behemoth Captain, but I'll still take extra strength and attacks whenever I can get them. But yeah, I think in general it's mostly just those lethal hits, man. Those are going to be so nice on full reroll bolt guns, and we're going to see a lot of that, I think.
Totally agree.
Alrighty. Up next, the Exalted Sorcerer. He has not changed one lick to my knowledge. Still giving out the 4-up invuln to his unit, and still bringing back models on the D6 roll. On a 1, you suffer the D3 still. 2 to 5, you bring back 1. On a 6, you bring back 2. Still just solid 4-up invuln across the board. You might not be seeing this in the Demon detachment, since there are ways to just have a 4-up invuln just because. I do think this actually becomes one of the more niche picks now with some of these rules in general. This army has seemed to become a lot more glass cannony. I think they are still fine. I think they're still good. But a lot of the times you are going to be trying to use a lot of that Rubric MSU with like lethal hits or the sustained to really just try to mop up targets and then just be like, okay, cool, it's gone. They're still just Rubric bodies. Even with a 4-up, it doesn't take that much to chew through them.
Yeah, you're taking a lot of risk there to bring them back for a sorcerer that, like you said, doesn't give lethals, doesn't give sustains, maybe the other detachments, but I'm definitely not running this in the Demon detachment. I'm running the make my units more lethal versus an ability that I already have. This does have the benefit of being in combat as well because the demon detachment is shooting only, so there's that. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yep, and then we move right along to the Exalted Sorcerer on disc instead, and it now gets what the normal Sorcerer had, which was the 18-inch lone op while it is leading a unit, which is kind of nice. You can zip around and just be casting some rituals from the backline. Some of those enhancements that we saw for like additional range and stuff will look real pretty on these, helping them stay safe while they are out marking targets for you, doom bolting, things of that nature, so they can just stay out in the open. And then also in your shooting phase, after this model has shot, select one enemy infantry unit hit by one of those attacks made with arcane fire. Until the end of the next turn, it is ensnared. It is -2 to move, -2 to charge, and it is just nice and slowed. So you can't really complain about that. It hasn't changed from the index, but getting the lone up on this now instead of the regular sorcerer, we'll see. It honestly, to me, I think it's so funny that the exalted sorcerers being exalted now just seem generally worse to me. Like, I don't think I'm going to be playing them nearly as much as either of the other two options.
So hold on, I gotta check something really quick. Does the strat for the demon detachment specifically say it stacks?
I think in the stratagem it says it does not stack.
Yeah, I was feeling like that. Yeah, not cumulative. So my first thought was like, ooh, I can make you -4 to charge. But I do like this ability, and I do like Tzaangor Enlightened, and I think there's detachments for it. And I still think it's good in the demon detachment. I think it's good in a lot of others. And I would definitely be running one on a disc before I ever ran an Exalted Sorcerer on foot. At least he's got the benefit of like going out and poking something. What's the range on Tzaangor Enlightened? Do they have a decent range, or are they?
That's the Shaman, the Enlightened with Fate Caster bows, 30-inch range.
Okay, so that actually is kind of nice. With an 18-inch lone op and a 30-inch range means I could go out, poke something, and you're -2 move, -2 charge. I like that a lot, actually, the more I think about it. Yeah, okay,
that
all right.
Cannot complain about that for sure. All right, up next, we are moving into the Demon Princes, and I don't know. I have some mixed feelings. I think they are still good. I still just wish we had the captain -1 to the cost of a stratagem. Like, I think that is just so solid. But the version we got is 3 inches. If you're within 3 inches of infantry, you get lone op. If you are within 6 inches of the Demon Prince on foot, you get stealth as a unit. And that's just one of your models has to be within 6. It is not the whole unit. And then the last thing is selfish ability, I guess. Each time a friendly Thousand Sun Psyker model with the Cabal of Sorcerers ability is destroyed within 9 inches of one or more models with this ability, select one of those models with this ability until the end of the battle. Each time the selected model attempts a ritual, add 1 to the psychic test of the result to a maximum of +2. So as you try to cast rituals and fail, if the Psyker dies, it just gives them a permanent buff up to a +2 for each Psyker that does die. I mean, since all of the failed rituals go onto your like bodyguard units, like I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a non-ability for the most part, but I still think generally pretty good. They are one of the things that has good, at least decent enough psychic weapons for the shooting and fight phase. So a lot of those like Grand Coven abilities could actually benefit these guys pretty well if you get them into combat, especially. They'll do pretty well.
Yeah, I mean the stealth is nice. -1 to hit is good. Him having lone up is good, but he's probably not the Demon Prince you take. This next one, though, Flying Demon Prince, I think there's definitely a possibility where you take a Flying Demon Prince. Biggest ability it's got, Hunter of Souls, reroll hit rolls of 1 to hit and wound if it's fighting a character unit, and then if it's a Psychic character unit, full rerolls to hit and wound. There are Psychic characters out there, quite a few actually, that are kind of beneficial and are playing around in the meta right now, so it's not awful. And then on top of that, if it destroys a character, it regains D3 lost wounds, which is nice. If it's a Psychic character, it's flat 3. That's a little extra buff, but the rerolls of 1 to hit and wound on both sides, I think, is super valuable for him in combat. But this next one, when it's set up using Deep Strike, it can perform the Aether Stride, so it can either be set up more than 7 inches horizontally away from all enemy units, not eligible to charge, and then until the end of the turn, Stark Blessing has the sustained hit D3 ability. I like that a lot. I think it's super, super valuable. It's not as good as the other Demon Princes we've seen. Lane, you're absolutely right. It's not as good as the Death Guard Demon Prince on foot. And I don't think it's as good as the Emperor's Children Demon Prince. And I think the World Leader's Demon Prince is probably equal, if not maybe a little bit better, because it's got better enhancements overall. But it is still a Psyker. It still has the capabilities to use all of your Cabal's 12 sorcerer abilities, so there's still a lot of value in taking them.
Yeah, I do think it's pretty interesting. And just to go over that Ether Stride a little bit more in depth, it's its psychic ranged attack that is 24-inch range, 9 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 4, AP 1, and damage 1. And you're giving it sustained hits D3. If you have, put this on your Oath target, and you're full re-rolling all of that, you can be fishing for quite a bit of hits. It's still, it's only AP 1, so if you're probably going to be looking to anything a little tankier, you're probably going to have to be looking to do the plus 2 AP strat to really chew through some tougher targets. But in general, I mean, that's some pretty decent damage coming out of Strat Reserve with those ranged attacks.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Alrighty, and the last of our normal, I guess, the Shaman is coming up later, but the Sorcerer and Terminator armor is the last of our characters for a little bit here, and he's is coming with lethal hits for his unit, and he also, in your shooting phase after this model has shot, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks made with a psychic weapon until the end of the phase. Each time a friendly Thousand Suns unit attacks that enemy unit, add 1 to the hit roll. Can't complain about that. Giving yourself a little bit of buffing, making yourself a little more consistent.
Plus 1 to hit is a nice little buff. It depends how many Terminators you're taking, right? Like, are you going to buff another squad of Terminators, or is this going to be Rubric Marines hitting on 2s, which can be very, very nice. Especially when, let's say, you don't get the Super Saiyan reroll off, but you're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. Well, that just means you're not fishing for certain things, but you are getting quote-unquote full rerolls. So you should be hitting with almost everything, which is nice. So I like that ability. And if you're running Rubric Marines or Rubric Terminators, you're probably running this because it gives the whole unit lethal hits. And we've already talked before how important that is, especially when you have full rerolls to hit.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think a lot of the +1 to wound and the dev wound stuff from Grand Coven is maybe a little lacking for some of the normal combinations, but this is just a very standard good combination that you can play almost across the board in any of the detachments and like it. And the nice thing is too, this is just lethal hits. It's not just in the shooting phase. If you can get those Terminators to shoot and fight in a turn, they are going to be doing some pretty good damage in both phases.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we have our new models for the Thousand Suns. Our robots, they've come into a little bit of, I would say, lukewarm excitement. Some people like the models. Some people are like, this is so boring. They look so static. They don't have any character. But I will say, rules-wise, I would not be surprised to see them in every single army.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean,
first of all, go ahead.
Infiltrate. You can't not. It's as simple as that. You might not love the model, but it has Infiltrate, and Infiltrate is just a necessity anymore. It's very hard to not take it when you do have the option. Free Overwatch, free Heroic Intervention. Can't complain about that. Decent enough ability. They still have Stealth. They're not that tanky, but they're not nothing, I guess. It's harder to kill this than Goremongers, I guess. So, look at that bright side.
Well, like a 3-up, 5-up, 4 wounds, toughness 6, and that heavy warp flamer, which is something that they can use, and then they can have their melted gun replaced with a projector. So they have D6 shots at strength 5 -2 1 damage, and D3 shots at strength 3 -1 1 damage. I think that's incredibly solid, and I'm probably just running the flamer variants on all of this because if I free Overwatch you, I just want to punish you for doing it. And it's a 2 to 4 per unit, which I think is really interesting as well. So you could potentially take 4 of these in a unit. I don't think you do. I think you just take 2 and you infiltrate them and you stick them on an objective and you just say, okay, you can come over here, but I'm going to Overwatch you at no risk to myself because I'm just going to Overwatch you.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think there is something to be said about the 4 robot strat. I do think if you're looking at running Ahriman and you bought the battle box and you have 4 of these, being able to just go take up a lot of space and deny a lot of area out in that midboard with 4 of them, and then use only one of your redeploys to kind of reposition, protect your natural or something, with 4 robots who are all, you can use the 0 CP. Now you have 46 flamers. I don't know. I think there is something to be said about the 4 stack of robots. I don't think it's a must, but I do think it has its place.
Depends how many points, but yes, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Going back to the Terminators, we've got just the normal unit that you can take in 5 or 10s. Still 2 up, 5 up, or 2 up, 4 up, I mean. And they still have -1 to wound. The classic bodyguard rule. Nobody's complaining about that.
No, and you pretty much, if you're going to take Terminators, you're going to take a Psyker with them because of all the things we've already said already. You're going to give them lethal hits. You want them to have -1 to wound. You want them to be a little bit tougher. Like, it just makes them inherently better. But from my understanding, all these data sheets look the same in terms of the Hellfire Missile Rack looks the same, Combi Bolter is the same, Malefic Curse, Anti-Infantry 4-up, which we love, especially when it's tied with Dev Wounds, which is insane, at -3 AP base. So you could get that to -5 if you had a special ability that allowed you to do that. Yeah, I think it's really solid. It's a very, very good unit. And I love Terminators in all forms, and these Terminators are no different.
Yeah, still going to be very solid. I don't know. I think personally, we might see the return of the Terminators getting dumped out of a Land Raider again and really just trying to use that assault ramp, fire into one target, go punch another. I think Grand Coven especially trying to get some more out of these psychic weapons that are within both phases and trying to make the most of really just using it because it'll last for the turn, trying to put it on a unit that generally is going to hit hard, but that extra damage out of the psychic weapons could kind of push it over the edge.
Yeah, I would love to see it. The iconic Terminator spilling out of Land Raider is super, super cool.
Yeah. All right. Up next, the backbone of the army, the classic Rubric Marines. Has anything changed, Phil?
I don't think so. This feels all the same. Reroll wound rolls if you're on an objective.
One change.
No change?
One change. Inferno bolt guns going to AP2, baby. AP2. But that's it as far as I am aware. But that is a very nice change. And yeah, you are getting the Icon of Flame gives you ignores cover. So AP2 that sticks, pretty dang tasty.
Well, I mean, you're always going to take an Icon of Flame. You always, like, ignore cover is too good. The rerolls, full rerolls to wound, which you can access if they're on an objective that you do not control. Awesome. And then just a reroll wound rolls of 1 inherently. We love, like, if you're not running Rubric Marines, there's not a detachment where I don't think you run Rubric Marines. I just think they're too solid. They're just too good.
Yeah, and it is nice to see the bolt guns. I think especially detachment variant see a lot more play now with this little change to them. AP2 means a world of difference, and the way you can set up getting lethal hits on them and some of the other things, I do think there is something to be said about actually running bolt Marines.
All right, well, the Emperor's Children can be sad again because another Chaos Demon or Chaos Army got Predators while they are just staring there with their no Predators, no Forge Fiends, nothing. Apparently someone didn't like them, but we got 2 types of Predators. Predator Destructor, every time it makes a ranged attack, excluding monsters and vehicles, it was hit by 1 or more psychic attacks made by a Thousand Sun Psyker from your army this phase. Improve the strength and AP characteristics of that attack by 1. So you hit it with the Psyker first, and then the Destructor comes in and gets +1 attack, +1 AP. Believe it or not, Lane, I think you have a few Psychers in this army that could really take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely a character or 2 that might make this combo possible. So yeah, cannot complain. Definitely a solid option. Just love to see it. I just love to see having it in the book. You know, nice to just have the option. Can't imagine being one of those suckers that doesn't have the option to take Predators. Talking to you, Matt. Yeah, all right. And then up next, we have the Annihilator. And each time this model makes a ranged attack that targets a monster or vehicle that was hit by 1 or more psychic attacks by a Thousand Sun Psyker model, you can reroll a hit roll and you can reroll the damage roll. Pretty nice.
I think you're probably running these. Especially, I just think you're running them inherently. I think this is probably one of the best support pieces because if we've talked about like all of our shooting here, we do have a lot of AP. It's not a lot of high strength stuff, and we have to kind of rely on lethal hits to get us there. But like 2 Predators back there with full rerolls to hit and wound if I hit you with the Thousand Sun Psyker, which once again we have quite a few of, makes these oppressive.
Yeah, just having, I mean, now that it's an oath army, basically from one of the rituals, right? Being able to oath something and then just go, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna target something else with my predators this turn. I've tagged it with a psyker. I now have full hit rerolls, and just being able to really rely on that. I think Predator Annihilators are going to fit really nicely by being able to target 2 different things per turn, and hopefully chunk through them in combination.
Yeah, absolutely. But now we're going on to the best vehicle in the Thousand Suns entire codex. It's the Chaos Rhino. It's got an ability like the Death Guard one, except for some would say it might even be a little bit better, because when you get out and the Rhino shoots something, whatever the psychic attacks that target that enemy unit, get +1 to hit, +1 to wound. That is really good.
Yeah.
That is really, really good for an army that's in the strength 4, strength 5 range for a lot of the bolters, which we already talked about, and then the flamers. Like, having +1 to hit and +1 to wound on your strength 5 flamers is really, really nice.
Yeah, definitely not complaining about that. Even if it's just like a 5-man, like 2 5-mans of rubrics with infernals to pop out and just have +1 to wound on that Infernal Master's torrent weapon is very, very good. And then if you're playing the Rubric Phalanx, they have 1 CP turn all bolt weapons into psychic weapons. That gets really spicy. And I think 3 rhinos are a minimum in that detachment. Like, almost like it's just such a strong combination that if you don't just have these packages to keep throwing out there, you're kind of missing out. I feel like I think they're just very, very strong, and they're going to punch real hard with full hit rerolls, stacking AP, and just 20 bolt gun shots and a 2d6 flamer. All of it's going to be at least AP3 likely. Like,
yeah.
That's gonna chunk, and their rubrics, if they're on objectives, you're re-rolling all those wounds. So we're talking insane efficiency out of those combos.
Yeah. Does that apply to the fighting phases? Does that apply to the fight phases?
It just says if you disembarked,
this turn, right? So then, like, all your psychic.
Until the end of the phase. Until the end of the phase. It's only in the shooting. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. It would be very spicy to run in there. It'd be something you wish you could do with Terminators too, if you could crash in. Rubrics, I don't feel like you quite want them getting stuck in nearly as much, but can't complain.
No, definitely not.
All right. The other transport, the old Chaos Land Raider. And we already talked a little bit about it. It has the assault ramp, which means each time a unit disembarks from the transport after it has made a normal move, you are still eligible to declare a charge that turn. So you can run this thing right up the board. It doesn't say anything about a restriction of adding another 6 inches of movement to it to get it even farther up the board on top of its 10 inches. So 16-inch move this bad boy. Get out your Terminators, charge on in there, and mess some shit up. I think is definitely an option in the new Codex for sure.
It's an option for sure. Well, I mean, we got 2 Forge Fiends next, or the Forge Fiend and the Mauler Fiend. Both of them are obnoxious, but I think, once again, our poor Emperor's Children friends, just, like, cover your ears, don't look. I know it's going to hurt, but Forge Fiend, after its model is shot, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks until the start of your next turn. That enemy unit is suppressed. While it's suppressed, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. This is not good compared to World Leaders 1. World Leaders 1 is insane. This one is meh. Because you should be killing things that you shoot at with the Forge Fiend. Nothing should be living to get suppressed. But here we are.
And if you're running Demon Princes on foot, you're giving out stealth anyway. So, I mean, are you really needing a different way to stack -1 to hit? Mauler Fiend, though, free heroic. And anytime you are trying to charge into an enemy unit that is already in engagement range of a Thousand Sun Psyker, you can re-roll your charge rolls. So this will pair really well with a more aggressive style. You just are running this son of a bitch right up the board, right next to your Chaos Land Raider. You get those Terminators in there, this bad boy's coming right along with them with reroll charges.
Yeah, I mean, 6 attacks, strength 14, -2, d6 +1 damage. That feels a little swingy, right?
Yeah, I honestly don't know if you're taking many of these, to be honest. I think I just the profiles aren't consistent enough, in all fairness, but it is funny. to think about. You can definitely still do it. 6 attacks at strength 14. Just being AP 2 is just not quite enough, I feel like. And then the sweet profile, or the extra attacks, it's not even the sweet profile. 7-1-1 for 6 attacks. Like, what is this thing really chewing through?
Yeah. Defiler is up next. Normal Defiler rules. It can move over features that are 4 inches or less in height, which is something we've seen across all the Defilers. But then each time you target this unit with the Fire Overwatch strat, hits are scored on unmodified rolls of 5 up. For each of those attacks that are target an enemy within 9 of one or more Pleasant Sun Psyker, a hit is scored on an unmodified hit roll of 4 up. That is quite good. We've seen before what Overwatch does on less than a 6. This is spicy.
Yeah, and for anybody with like a little bit of forethought and stuff too, like if it's let's say you have like top of turn or something and you know they want to move something out, you can just be like, well, I can see one thing, I'm going to oath that real quick. I can't kill it, but I can oath it from downtown. That thing steps out, I got a Defiler hitting on 4s on an Overwatch. That gets real gross. It's pretty uncommon you're going to be able to set that up, to be fair, but if you do, hats off to you, because that's going to slap.
Like, if I was to set up that combo, it would probably be, like, if I knew that the charge was coming, I would rapid ingress that Demon Prince that can drop outside of 7, which means I can drop outside of 7. That is a Thousand Sun Psyker model. And then you charge me, I'm overwatching you on 4s now. With that Defiler that's, like, sitting right there. With full rerolls to hit if we plan it out properly.
Yeah. Definitely some shenanigans you can get more than just the base level with the new army rules. But in general, still just nice to have 4 up to hit on Overwatch. It's got a ton of options for guns that you can take. So, yeah, can't complain.
I like it a lot. Heldrake, one of the coolest models, but I will never paint that because that trim looks awful to go through. But every time it ends normal move, select one enemy unit. It moved over, it removes the benefit of cover. Is that worth it for the profile that a Heldrake gives? I don't think so. Maybe not.
What?
Yeah.
It's whatever. I think we'll just move on, dude. Like, who cares?
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Heldrake's
I wish
a
it was
Heldrake.
cooler. I wish it was cooler, Heldrake, but brother, you need a little bit more help than that.
Yep, a Chaos Spawn, they just regain up to 3 lost wounds in each player's command phase. So just a little bit of healing. Still nothing crazy. D6 plus 2 attacks apiece. 5 up, feel no pain. Same old same. 5 up invuln on these, I guess, though, since it is Tzeentch. So that is
no scout.
Nice little no scout. And I think we did skip past this one before. So before we go on, the Hellbrute, talk about him real quick. He's got a 2 up, 5 up. And in your shooting or fight phase after this model has shot or fought, select one enemy unit hit by one of those attacks. That unit must take a battle shock, subtracting 1 if that test is within 9 inches of 1 or more Psyker units from your army. And then also, devoted to destruction, if you're equipped with 2 melee weapons, add 2 to the attacks. It's fine. It's worse.
Yeah.
It used to make it to where you got refunded Cabal points if you cast near him. Now you're just doing some Battle Shock shenanigans. It could help flip objectives, but I don't know. This isn't a Battle Shocky enough army, I think, to really make that seem like it's an auto-include or even something you're strongly considering.
Yeah. No, I'm not a fan.
All right. Well,
on to the Goat Boys now.
You know it. The Tzaangor Shaman. All right. When it is leading a unit, add 1 to the hit roll. And while it is leading a unit in the shooting or fight phase, each time you are selected to shoot or fight, you can use this ability. If you do, select 1 bodyguard model in that unit, and it is destroyed until the end of the phase. Add D3 to the attacks and strength characteristics of psychic weapons for this model. It's okay. It's a cool ability. If you're in the Tzaangor detachment, I think it's really good.
Yes.
But
yes.
Other than that, he has D6 shots at strength 9, no AP, 1 damage. So, what are you really getting out of? If you're clearing cultists, that's a nice buff. Other than that, you're just killing a dude. You are more likely to do more damage to your own unit with this ability than you are to most data sheets.
Yeah, but if I give D6 plus D3 shots with full rerolls to hit, so I'm fishing. You know what? I'm fishing, and I have +1 to wound, and I'm strength 9. What am I not wounding on at
Demons
least
watch
3?
out. Oh, damn.
I really like it. I like the +1 to hit. The ability is a little quirky, but I think it is still very, very solid. and you're just sending this guy with the boys up the board, and they are just mulching through things and hopefully trading up into things.
Yeah, definitely not too bad on the melee weapons is actually not terrible. You get D3 plus 3 attacks, hitting on 2s at strength 5 plus D3. So, you got a chance to mess up some, I don't know, scouts. I don't know. But I think we're moving on now to the Tzaangor Enlightened, and I think these are actually some of like the sneaky winners of the new Codex, because now you can use these as bodyguard models for characters on disc. So Exalteds and Ahriman can now lead either version of the Enlightened. The melee version with the Divining Spears. Each time it ends a charge move, select one enemy unit in engage range of it, roll a d6 for each model in this unit, and on a 4-up, they suffer 1 mortal wound. Charge mortals, can't complain.
Yeah, love it.
Lance Spears with precision built in, can't complain.
Also love it. Yeah, the whole thing is really interesting. So I want to check something real quick, Lane. Is the detachment for the goat detachment, when they do the D3, is that?
Yeah, they have the Tzeentch mutant keyword.
Yep. And when the characters, the Thousand Sons characters get attached, it is still a Tzeentch mutant unit. So all the characters that get attached still get the +1 to wound or -1 to wound for them as well. So like that makes them really solid.
Yeah, I think honestly, your ability to just tag on a couple of these to play kind of hero hammer, a little bit more character heavy, to you lose 1 to the D3 mortals, and then you're just +1 to wound with an Infernal Master or something. Like there's something to be said about these, as well as Fatecaster bows on some Exalteds. Just zipping around there with 30-inch range and precision. Can't complain about that.
No, you can pick up some stuff with that.
Yep.
I like the more and more I look, Tzaangor Enlightened with Fatecaster bows, especially with, we already talked about it, with the Sorcerer on disc, right? Just like go out, pick somebody up, pick out a character, like one of those stupid Plague Marine Death Guard characters that are 4 wounds a pop, that are sitting inside of these Plague Marine bricks, or even like Lord of Contagion or Lord of Virulence, and just being like, okay, I'm going to give you, I have lethal hits and precision, and I'm going to have full rerolls to hit, and I'm just going to put this all on this Lord of Virulence until he dies.
Yep. Sounds great. And the other great thing...
now your Death Shroud Terminators are moving 3 inches.
Yeah. Just loan up. You're just out here plinking away. All these other Marine factions that like to put leaders in their units, you're just like, okay, cool. Well, I've got my Exalted Sorcerers with some Fatecaster Great Bows. Just a couple units cruising around, ready to pop some dudes out of units. Not bad.
That might be my favorite unit so far.
It's got some play, dude. All right. The classic Goatmen, though, up next. They now have Scout 6, which is very nice. And you are now able to pick them up at the end of your opponent's turn as long as they are more than 6 inches away horizontally from all enemy units and placed back into Strat Reserve. And you can also reroll advances and reroll charges for this unit, which is very, very nice. They are no longer generating you Cabal points because that's not a thing. So we'll take some Scout 6 for a nice trash unit to get up the board. And yeah, not complaining whatsoever. And we did skip over the ability real quick. I want to go back and talk about that. For the Tzaangor Enlightened with the bows, they have a reactive move. Anytime somebody ends a normal or fallback move within 9 of them, they can make a D6 move. So
love it.
Nice little cherry on top there.
Yeah. Is there a world where you don't take Tzaangors? Because they're probably the perfect scoring unit, even outside the Tzaangor detachment, with a 6-inch scout, with being able to be pulled back into Deep Strike. Like, all of those things. And do they have the Deep Strike keyword? They do not. So they do not come in from a board edge. Yeah, so they'd have to come in from a board edge. They'd go into Strat Reserve. That's slightly unfortunate, but I still think they're fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Your ability to also just, for what they cost, just being able to scout up, get a little bit more board pressure. I always felt like when I was playing Thousand Sons this last fall, having cheap-ish things to trade that you still people had to commit to take them out. The Enlightened or things like that nature just didn't seem like they were really going to pull people out. And they also weren't big enough to screen. if you don't deal with Tzaangors, I can move block you very, very well, especially with some additional movement. So I don't know. I think it's nice to get them up the board. And you can also, they're versatile. You can leave one on the back line holding your home. You get to late game and go, okay, cool. I just need to go score. They're over there now. It's great.
Yeah, no, I think they're very, very good.
All right, the last of the mutants, the Mutilith Vortex Beast. Only change here, it still has the mortals on the end of its move, and it also makes everything take a battle shock within that 6-inch that 6-inch aura. And then instead of doubling the range of psychic, basically Doombolt, it now is just a +1 to psychic test. If you are channeling the warp as a psyker and you're within 6 inches of this model, a little consistency does not hurt in this army. Can't complain. Seems like it's the same old same.
Yeah, but this guy can be made +1 to wound and -1 to wound in the goat detachment.
With a 5-up invuln and 5-up feel no pain. Woo! It's good, dude. You've got to feel no pain. You're like, I do D3 mortals. I probably ignore one of them. I take 1 mortal wound. Good luck. Pretty good, dude.
Yeah.
You thought I was crazy. The goat detachment is goated, bro.
All right, let's move on to the demons that have decided to accompany Ahriman and Magnus on this quest to the top of the 40k meta. See, they couldn't leave home without the big bird himself, Pyro's Fate Weaver. He still has Vect, which is very, very good. It's 12-inch Vect, solid. No reason not to take it. And then he can take a battle shock, and if he passes it, you gain 1 CP. It is, to my knowledge, one of the only ways to gain additional CP in the Codex as a whole. So if that's something that concerns you, I hate to break it to you, you don't get a nice cheap demon prince like Death Guard do to reduce strats. Your option is Big Bird to help you out.
In the demon detachment. That's it.
In the demons, well, yeah, in the demon detachment, that is the only way that he's helping you. So, do you take Kairos? I think there's definitely a world where you take Kairos. Lane already said it, and we've said it before. Is like you could do Big Bird and Magnus and you could do the regular Big Bird and just be like, okay, I got these 3 giant demons, and then I'm just gonna get a smattering of goats, and we're gonna send all of these things at you. I think it could be a very interesting stat check for sure.
Yeah, up next, the classic Lord of Change. It still has, in your shooting phase, you select ignores cover, lethal hits, or sustained hits D3 for its weapons, or the other ability, while scintillating Legion units are within 6 inches of this model, add 1 to the strength of those attacks. He's still just a big old bird.
Still a big old bird.
Nothing crazy here. Still wish he had a little bit more strength on either the shooting or the melee, but, here we are. That's why you got Magnus to just run in there and clap things, I guess.
Yeah.
Other than that, Flamers still able to shoot when they fall back. Screamers still doing flyover mortals. And
Anti-infantry 4-up, right? On both sides.
Anti-monster vehicle. Yeah. Yep. Still a solid unit. And then you just got the 2 versions of the horrors and the brims, but you can't take them specifically. You just end up with them. But yeah, pink horrors, when they split, you get
C in this detachment.
They do have 1 OC. Yep. As compared to the blues, who go down to none. So compared to the demon attachment, that is the only major change here that I am aware of. Yeah. Blues still make everything around them -1 to their leadership, so that does help with some battle shock stuff. But yeah, other than that, dude, I think there's some solid combinations in here, and I'm excited to get some of them on the table. What stood out the most to you? I mean, I feel like there's a couple things that really just grabbed you by the horns, but
Yeah, so it's the Tzaangor Enlightened. That's probably my favorite unit. I'm just like picturing like them just like flying around on discs, like sniping your characters out. Like that is devastating. That is not fun, especially for all my Death Guard characters that are like, I really don't want you to shoot me. I really rely on having these characters alive. And then also just the cheeky, Thousand Suns Psyker on there on disc, giving the -2 charge, -2 movement. I think that's really interesting. But Mutilith Vortex Beasts, I would not be surprised. It does not, like, the goat detachment they're going to be great in, because they're going to have +1 to wound, -1 to wound. Like, they are still mutants. They're still fantastic. They're going to be really good in that detachment. But I think we're going to see them in almost every detachment, because they're still really solid, because they give +1 to the channel, right? And then goats, Tzaangors. Before, we never saw them. They were kind of like the joke joke unit of that army, they didn't
Mhm.
have anything that they did. Now they do, right? Now they have a scout. Now they have a reroll advancing charges. Now they can be pulled back into strat reserves. And then the secretary robots. Those guys, if I was to put money on what you need in every army that you're going to run, it's going to be that. Because of the free Overwatch, because of all the flamers that they have, and they are still tough bodies with infiltrate and stealth. So you don't have to sell me on those. Those four, I think, are going to be like the star units of this codex.
Yeah, definitely some strong combinations, dude. I'm just thinking of teams, especially throwing like triple exalted with the fate caster bows and just being like, hey, if anybody is character reliant and they get paired into that TSon's matchup, that is going to be brutal. Having that much precision just in your army. And it, honestly, like the Enlightened aren't that expensive. I honestly think 1 to 2 units in any detachment of that combination are pretty good. And you don't have to go with the Exalted on disc. You could just run them plain. But it's pretty spicy to be like, we'll just be out in the open killing your characters, you know? Like just having a like 1 or 2 units of Enlightened that are just like, I keep these in reserve. Whenever I see a character pop its little head out, boom. Here's 2 units of Enlightened just firing down range. I'll take it, dude.
Yeah, I think it's really, really solid. This codex is going to be. I'm not even going to call it sneaky good. Everyone knows it's going to be good. Everyone knows like extra movement is king. Everyone knows that TSons as a whole have been an incredibly hard army to balance. I don't know if this is going to be as strong as Death Guard, but I think it's going to be up there. It's going to be really, really close, and I think some very good players are going to get their hands on this, and the skill expression is going to be quite high.
Yeah, definitely does seem like a strong codex on the release. I think the thing I love the most about it is with some of these tech pieces we've looked at, it's going to play very, very well into all the other Chaos versions we've just seen released. And I'm a fan of that.
Yeah. You don't have any fights first, though. So
don't have any fights first. No, just some very good, just make sure we keep a 10-man flamer unit for Overwatch just floating around in there somewhere. Yeah, who
maybe
needs
the
fight
occasional
first?
defiler.
Yeah, just a thing or two that I think will help deal with some of those problems. And if you have a fights first character, get them out in the open, please. I beg of you. But yeah, so we will wrap it up there, though. Thank you guys for stopping by, and do not forget to like and subscribe if you have not joined our Discord. It should be in the description below. So go ahead and hop in there where we're talking about all the new things in Warhammer. And do not forget, victory isn't given, it's forged, and it's forged right here on Master Crafted. See you guys next time.